And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We have Crusty Old Guy once again. Folks, just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. Crusty, it's a special day. It's a special week for us.
It is?
Why it's a special week?
Yeah, I do.
Because
I
3 years ago, we decided to yap in front of a screen. Well, not really in front of a screen, because there was a while where we were just doing it via phone call, which if there's any listeners that have been listening since those days, thank you so much. We were on such a teeny budget back then.
We're still on a teeny budget.
Right. But, you know, we at least have video now. It looks nice. We've elevated in the world.
We have, because we started, just on each other's phones?
Yeah, I would call you and we would record the phone call, and then that would just be the episode.
And how did we do that? You did that through what site or something?
Some app. I kept switching apps to get like the free trials.
Well, I gotta figure people are much happier now that they get to see me.
Exactly.
Yes, we've come a long way.
We've come a long way. Christy, it's our anniversary week. We have been yapping for 3 years about hockey. Could you imagine that when I sent you that text many years ago being like, should we start a podcast, that we'd still be doing it 3 years later?
Well, actually,
yeah.
I mean, what else do we have to do? No, it was pretty crazy. I can't imagine this actually got off the ground. As I've told you a million times, I can't actually believe people listen. You know, that just makes me giggle. But I hope we entertain and educate.
It's gotten off the ground. We're not recording via phone call anymore. We're not recording in coat closets because, guys, for a while I was recording in coat closets.
You were. I'm still stuck in the garage occasionally. I have not been built my whole cigar lounge yet by anyone.
Right.
And yeah, to go to a cigar lounge is difficult because there's just a lot of yelling people.
There's people.
But no, you've may come leaps and bounds. Again, as most people know on this show, I don't really have much to do with anything technical. So, you know, all that hard work is on the Hockey Princess.
That is true. But you bring so much game after game after game analysis to the point where there's been many stretches where a lot of people just stop watching. There's been times where there's been a couple of games in a row where I haven't wanted to watch the next full 60 minutes. And Christy, you still do it. And not only that, but sometimes you'll go back and watch the game again.
Well, in full disclosure, that hasn't happened in a little while just because of the play. But yes, sometimes, especially back in the heyday when you know, if you ever go to a game and really watch a couple players, occasionally you need to rewatch the game because you're fixated on other players. You know, I like watching hockey. I like watching Blackhawk hockey, and cut and dry. If I'm going to talk about it, I need to watch. I don't trust a lot of other people's opinions. So that's just my control issues flying out. But that's time for like therapy and stuff like that. So let's move on.
Yeah, we'll move on. Chrissy, we've got a handful of questions that were sent to us.
Shut up.
Yeah. A handful of questions sent to us for our anniversary episode of, you know, what do folks want to hear about this on this special episode? Because we do this for the people.
We do.
Really. This is for anyone who listens or watches or interacts with our show whatsoever. But the first question before we get into news and drafts and stuff is, Christy, what is your why for why you do this?
What is my why?
Why do you sit down? Why do we sit down every week, sometimes multiple times a week during the season?
Wow, I like the fact that you don't even like give me time to think
No
about this stuff.
way.
There's no the why is easy. I thoroughly enjoy talking hockey. No doubt about it. There's, again, as we've talked about on this show, there's a gap probably from the four sports from the three sports to the fourth sport as far as listening. So anybody who will talk hockey with me, I will talk.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll always talk hockey with me. That's why I do it. It's pretty simple. I like talking about it. I like watching it. I love every aspect of the game, the people who play it, from how they come up as tiny tots through going to billet families, doing this, doing that. It's all just fascinating. So that's why I do it. What about you, Hockey
Incredible.
Princess?
I think my why has changed throughout the years, because initially there was the why of why did we start this? And that is, for anyone who knows either of us, we will always talk hockey every minute of the day. And so it was kind of, well, let's create an outlet, like an actual outlet to discuss all of the hockey that we talk about all the time. And I think prior to starting the podcast, I was not familiar in like the hockey podcasting world of different podcasts that were out there, but especially within the Chicago hockey podcast world, it's a lot of guys. It's a very male saturated field. I didn't see anybody like me. I didn't hear from any voices like me. It's kind of a lot of guys older than me telling me what I should think. And so the why for why I created this show was to just be a different outlet for listeners and for people not only in the Chicago hockey world, but just the hockey world in general, that did not hear voices like themselves or did not see person like themselves in the market that they're in talking hockey. But why do I do it now? Gosh, I'm privileged to talk with my dad once a week or twice a week sometimes on hockey. Do you know, Christy, how lucky we are to do this? So that's my why right now.
Yes, most definitely. Staying connected is huge. Without getting too crazy and this and that. As much time as you can spend with your loved ones is what you should be doing. The rest is just noise, as I like to say. And you brought up another really good point, which I constantly try to do on this show, is I don't want to tell anybody what to think. I want to bring out my opinion. Hey, doesn't fit for you. I'm down with that, and I don't mind hearing what other people think also, because there is no wrong answer with all of this.
Yeah, very true. All right, Christy, let's get into some hockey.
Okay.
First off, I want to jump into the PWHL because we have another question, and it's about the PWHL. We had somebody send in and ask, will we be covering more of the PWHL this upcoming season? The answer is yes. We will reevaluate completely the structure of our show when the time comes that Chicago gets a team. That will be a further discussion. But to short answer, yes, we will be talking more about the PWHL this year. We're talking more about the draft. We'll be talking about it when their season starts. The schedule hasn't dropped yet, but usually that's November-ish, sometime in November. But yes, for our new listeners, usually during the regular seasons for NHL and PWHL. So like October to April, usually about the first 30 minutes, we kind of talk about other leagues, other teams that are not the Chicago Blackhawks. And then we try to save the last 30 minutes talking about Blackhawk news and stuff that happened that week. So our PWHL coverage will kind of fall into that first 30 minutes. We may be a little bit lighter with our just general NHL coverage, with Rockford coverage, with prospect coverage, depending week to week. With our PWHL coverage for this upcoming season, it will probably be more of just the PWHL as a whole, since Chicago does not have a team. So it will kind of just be like, this is when they're starting, or anything big that happens throughout the season, but it won't be following a specific team, because we're not going to follow a specific team until there's one in Chicago.
Okay. I guess my first question,
Yes.
which I don't know the answer to. So the P-Dub season, though, is basically runs together with the NHL season, correct?
More or less. They start later and end later in terms of the regular season.
Gotcha. That's kind of what I thought. All right. You just, as people already know on the show, you just tell me what to do.
That's true. But getting into PWHL right now, we are in the midst of the PWHL expansion process. We will have the link below that kind of really deep dives into it. But right now it's kind of just everybody's on a trade freeze when it comes to existing teams. So any signings and trades have to be done with expansion teams only. So for example, like Minnesota can't trade somebody to Boston during this time frame. Any activity done is from existing teams to the expansion teams. And as a reminder, the expansion teams are going to be Hamilton, Detroit, St. Louis, or San Jose, and Las Vegas. This freeze started on May 28th, and it's going to run till about June 18th, June 19th. It's broken down into 4 phases. Phase 1 was each team protecting 3 players from said expansion. Expiring contracts have to be signed in order to be protected, which is why yesterday we saw the news coming out with Alex Carpenter getting a 3-year re-signing with the Seattle Torrent, as well as one of my favorite hockey players, Sarah Nurse, signing a 2-year extension with the Vancouver Golden Eyes. So they have to be re-signed in order to be protected. Most like protection speculation lists that I have seen, because it's not completely common knowledge for every team yet. It's kind of if they announce versus if they don't. But most every team that I've seen, one of their goaltenders is listed as protected, which makes sense. Phase 2, you've got the expansion teams are signing 5 players each. So each expansion team submits a list of 20 players to target, and they can only sign players off of that list. Yes.
What are these players? Are these players just free agents, or?
These are just players that are unprotected. So for the Minnesota Frost, as to my understanding, they have protected Taylor Heisey, Tessa Janicki, and Maddie Rooney. All excellent choices. So we'll use one of our favorites in the Chicago area, Kendall, as an example, who is unprotected for the expansion and is already rumored to be linked to one of the expansion teams. But say one of the expansion teams puts Kendall Coyne number 1 on their list, and nobody else puts Kendall number 1 on their list. Then Kendall's agent, and the expansion team all are notified, and then they begin kind of contract stuff. If, say, Kendall is number 1 on Detroit and Hamilton's list, say if.
Let's just stop that right there, Kendall. Yeah, that's enough. We don't go to Detroit, okay?
Well, funny
That's
enough,
just
that is
that's
the team
it's just that simple, Kendall.
that is the team she is linked to.
Kendall, don't do it. Don't do it.
But for example, say Kendall is number 1 on Hamilton and Detroit's list,
Hamilton's a wonderful place, Kendall.
then a bidding war essentially gets to happen. Yeah.
When you say a bidding war, so say they will both want Kendall.
Yeah.
Now, they don't get to pick. It's whoever decides to pay her more. Period. She has no say in this.
She does have a say. But it's a competition between the two then. If Kendall is listed as the number 1 on multiple teams, then there's more negotiations, bigger discussions.
Okay. If this is fascinating.
Yes. This also, it is the same ruling kind of throughout the numbering. So the same rules apply. Like if Kendall's number 2 on Detroit's list and she's not number 1 or number 2 on anybody else's, then she begins the process to go to Detroit. If she's listed as number 2 on Detroit and Hamilton's list, same sort of situation. Yes.
You won't have maybe all of the answers because
that's okay. I can send you the PDF for it.
Because as we know, we've been through a couple expansions, the NHL wise, and we still didn't know all the answers for that.
Yep.
So my understanding from what you're explaining is if Kendall is listed number 1 in Hamilton and number 2 in Detroit, she goes to Hamilton.
Yes. To my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Wherever she is listed higher.
Right. Only if she's listed on the same level, she then gets negotiating rights and has final say.
To my understanding, yes.
Okay. Yeah, send me that. When is the expansion draft?
Well, so the expansion is going on. It is been going on.
Right now?
Well, the expansion draft, that's what I'm saying. These phases are broken down between multiple days. So it's not like the NHL expansion draft or the PW expansion draft that they did for Seattle and Vancouver. This is a completely different layout for this year. And I think they're doing it because of how many, and to also kind of, I hate to say dilute the talent because that's not the case. Everyone in the PW is incredibly talented, but spread out the talent throughout the cities, not only the existing teams, but also the new 4 expansion teams.
And yeah, you don't like to use diluted.
No, but
at the end of the day, when you have 4 new teams, there's a thinning out of the talent just because of the spreading out. I get exactly what you're, as I've mentioned many times on the show, I don't want to disrespect anybody playing this game. And I don't care if that's phenomenal. In the A, it's in June. It's all very impressive, but there is a thinning out process as you stated. Okay.
Next one is phase 3, and that is expansion teams being able to sign up to 3 unprotected players on expiring contracts. So that's still from existing teams. Their contracts are expiring. Yes.
See, this is going to be nonstop. So if somebody's a UFA, we don't have to put them on our list.
No.
Okay, go on.
The ones that you're putting on the list are
under contract, but not protected.
Yeah. And then phase 4, the final is going to be unprotected players, basically unsigned and unprotected that are eligible. And you basically do this until each new expansion team has at least 10 players. So it's kind of, you're just doing it a little bit by a little bit. Then they'll have 10 at least by the expansion. Then we'll have the draft, which will be in a couple of weeks on the 17th. So right at the tail end of all of this expansion. Should be very interesting. And again, we're going to drop the kind of full breakdown. The PW has a really nice, it's about like 14 pages. So it's a read, but it's definitely not the biggest read that Krusty and I are going to do in the month of June. That kind of explains all of the phases with this expansion. Because like we said, it is completely new for this year. And everyone is kind of a little confused with what's going on with it. But finishing off with the PW draft, like we said, that's going to be in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks from today. It is June 17th. The award show is the 16th. The draft is the 17th. Both events are going to be in Detroit. We have 235 players that have declared for the draft, the largest by far, blowing last year's number out of the water in terms of people that will be going into the PW draft. Again, you're figuring your top 3 are in no particular order: Layla Edwards, Abby Murphy, and Caroline Harvey. Interesting thing is Layla Edwards has been playing both forward and defense, not only in college, but also in international competitions. And she has declared as a defenseman for the draft. So that would make potentially Krusty Old Guy's favorite the top forward to go in the draft, which may kind of change what Seattle does. Do you go forward? Do you go defenseman? Obviously, Seattle being newer and didn't have the greatest season last year, just with injury and being newer than some of the other teams, you need both. So, and both Layla Edwards and Abby Murphy are incredibly talented. So it's not like Seattle is going to hurt by drafting either of them. But I do think that does play into, do you go forward? Do you go defenseman? And then I think if everything stays the same, then it'll be New York for 3. And I think New York takes whoever Seattle doesn't. I am still unsure right now how the expansions fall into the rest of the draft. They haven't released that quite yet. When they do, we will share. But they will definitely make things interesting, especially with the amount of teams that are going to be new for this upcoming year. But I love a draft. I'm very excited.
So the expansion will be on the tail end of this, though?
Yeah, so the draft is the June 17th. The expansion ends the 18th or 19th. They're basically going to be at the point where paperwork is being filed. There shouldn't be any blockbuster moves in regards to the expansion. We may still see some fun things at the draft in terms of trades and such, but when it comes to the straight up just expansion draft, they should be at the very end by the time the PW draft rolls around.
So I won't have to worry about Abby Murphy going someplace that I don't want her to go.
Thank you. Do not want her to go to Vancouver.
I'm fine with that. I only want her not to go to one place. Abby, got that? Hey, I'm trying to keep the hate alive, man. That's all I can say. Just trying to keep the hate alive.
Listen, I know the amount of people that slid into our DMs and they're like, well, at least there's another Midwest team. And I'm like, I can't like them.
Nope. Can't.
I'm
So.
like, I can't do it. Sorry, guys. But yes, you will know by the time the PW draft rolls around, kind of where, if she could go to teams that you don't want her to go to, or if she could go to other teams. You will have an idea of it, unless something crazy happens.
Gotcha.
So, Chrissy, do you have any other thoughts, feelings, questions on the PETA?
I don't think so. I think I've asked enough questions.
All right, then we're going to flip to a quick ad break and then get into NHL.
Okay. The Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sporting betting partner of the NHL, has a new customer offer. When the ice gets the coldest, the best players in the world show you exactly who they are. Playoff warriors turn it up round by round, and now we are at the last round. And DraftKings turns it up with them from the first round, which is long, long ago, to the Stanley Cup Finals, which we are in now. Bet player props, bet live from the opening faceoff to the final horn. Every moment matters. New DraftKings customers, bet just $5 and you'll get $100 in bonus bets instantly. And remember, this is a way to make things happen. Had you put a $5 bet after Vegas was down 2-0 in last night's game, woof, that would have turned into some really, really good money. Okay. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN so you're ready for the moment. That's code THPN. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MYRESET. New York, call 8778-HOPENY or text HOPENY. Connecticut, call 888-7897-777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after insurance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved.
Excellent, Krusty.
I think, yeah. Doesn't happen a lot, but Krusty's a little proud of himself.
There you go. All right. Jumping to the NHL. Before we get to other stuff, we had another question. When does the NHL schedule come out? Guys, mid-July. I don't know. Everyone has asked us. I don't know why everyone has asked us.
You've got to plan your vacations. You got to plan your trips.
I know. But
everybody
mid-July, friends. Mid-July for the NHL. Usually it's a little bit after for the AHL. If you are following an AHL team or trying to make it out to go to Rockford, college is kind of throughout. Usually the NCHC releases theirs really early, so that's already out. And then college, more like Big Ten, will be closer to the start of the season. But for NHL, mid-July. They don't have a date yet, but they said mid-July.
Yeah, and for those of you that are asking that question, I feel your pain. I go through this all the time, especially now with the Blackhawks not being very competitive. Once the season ends, we get to look to the next year of all the promise and how everything's going to be good again. And yeah, we're chomping at the bit to get that schedule.
Absolutely.
So
we have another All-Star weekend, but it's different than our normal All-Star weekends. So we have an All-Star weekend for this upcoming season, just because, guys, there's no Olympics, there's no Four Nations, but this is kind of like Four Nations, but not really. It's February 5th and 6th. They're going to be on the island at the UBS Arena. It's going to feature 5 teams: Canada, Finland, Sweden, the US, and a world team, which is going to be international players from other countries that are outside of those 4 teams. So some Swiss, some German. I would expect at least one German on that team. And some other potentially Eastern European players. This is also a reminder that this is an NHL event, not an IIHF event. So I would imagine that we also get some Russian players as well for that world team, because the ban on Russian players does not apply to NHL events, only IIHF, which is like your World Juniors, your Olympics, and such.
that is correct. I actually did some research on this. So I did some reading. So yes, the Russian players will be able to play in this format. The other neat little thing is I believe there's 2 million up for grabs in this silliness.
Yes, there's certainly at least 1 million up for grab with the skills competition that is going to be comprised of tiny tots and kids under the age of 25. I think this is great because I think at least in like past years, you had a lot of very skilled players doing these skills competitions, but guys who have done it 5 to 6 years that didn't seem to be the biggest fan of it by the time the last one rolled around. So it's just going to be a bunch of young kids. There's $1 million up for grabs. Hopefully, Brendan Smith keeps his elbows down and Connor Bedard can go. But it should be very entertaining.
Yeah, I kind of like what they're trying. It's an all-star competition, so at the end of the day, this is for entertainment purposes only. Yeah. That and expanding the game. The NHL is all in as far as making this international and having everybody put their country on their jersey, or at least, a connection to it, and play that us against them mentality, which has worked so well since the Four Nations. And I think the NHL is very well aware. They got a lot of youngsters coming up, and it's it's time to showcase. We've noticed a changing of the guard a little bit, and it's going to continue. And that young talent is pretty intense. So all good.
Yeah, I really do like the changes. I mean, you had to change something because not only with how well Four Nations did 2 years ago, but just how poorly the All-Star viewership was starting to be with a couple of years prior to that. The players didn't seem like they wanted to be there, which I don't blame them. Having a break in February seems delightful. Having a long weekend to just rest or go golfing, because apparently that's exciting. Like, you should get a little bit of rest. But it was awkward. It was definitely awkward to watch as a viewer, because you're kind of not wanting to watch it. There's not really any skin in the game. And then the players didn't seem like they wanted to be there. And it was kind of just like why are we doing this? So I think the changes that they're making, like Krusty said, not only are able to bring in these younger kids, because I feel like for some of these competitions, not only at the international level, but in the NHL as well, you have so many talented kids that are coming in, as well as so many talented other veterans. and you're going to prioritize the veterans for competitions, because that's just how it's always been, but you want to at least give them credit and give them props as well. So I think it's a nice balance between the two. And it's not a massive break in February, which I'm thrilled about.
Yeah, and everything needs to evolve. I remember, back in the heyday of the Hawks, they had that whole picking your team, which
That was incredible.
which was very entertaining, but that runs its course.
Yeah.
Everything kind of runs its course, and now, the other big thing is 3-on-3 competition, just because it's a little bit more entertaining for people, that it's just a big ping pong ball and rah, rah, rah. And again, we're selling it for a weekend. You want to show off these talents. Hey, whatever you need to do to keep people viewing, I guess. I think it'll work out real well for them, though.
And final question, because we do have these teams, the four teams, the 4-nation teams, and then the world team. Do you think we see number 15 behind the bench for Finland in some capacity? Because gosh darn it, I hope so.
Who asked that question? Hockey Princess?
You think I would not? Of course, I'm going to find a way to bring up the 15 on our anniversary show.
Yeah, I've got to figure he's there, and they're able to do more of this stuff. I don't believe anybody's contract has bonuses for being an all-star anymore.
No.
You have enough end of the year stuff, with awards, with first, second, third team awards, where way back when that was the big thing. You got a bonus. You were considered the best in your field, and then it didn't work anymore.
No, I think the only ones that I would assume are kind of just like the guys behind the bench that I normally see during competitions. I mean, like DeBoer is going to be there in some capacity. They're playing at UBS.
Yes.
And he's normally behind the bench, and it wouldn't be like you're already there.
Yeah, that'll be a little interesting. I mean,
yeah.
As a coach, you don't do much. You just,
you're just
you decide you're going to put 3 guys together and say, okay.
Yeah.
And then you got to go through the trouble of trying to get them off the ice when you want them off the ice.
Yeah, that's always a giant problem.
It is, because especially on 3-on-3, everything looks so enticing to go back for a little bit longer. So all good.
Yeah. I want to jump to one other NHL thing before Krusty takes it to the finals. Because we talked about the PW draft a little bit, so we're going to talk about the NHL draft a little bit. We're not going to go crazy. But very, very special thing came out yesterday. And if you're like me and aren't the biggest fan of watching this finals matchup, the Elite Prospects came out with a giant book. They normally do every year. Giant book for the NHL draft. It was very exciting. I was very surprised how they ranked some players, how some players fell, some rose surprisingly. There was a certain player that dropped all the way to 28th, which now I am on the full bandwagon that Katie needs to trade that Edmonton pick away to get us a lower pick in the first instead of 2 really high up in the second, because Oliver Sivanto is ranked anywhere between 21 to 38. And I know we're picking 34th, but Katie, gosh darn it, just trade up a little bit higher so we can snag him. I won't be mad if we take a defenseman at 4 if we get a giant centerman later in the first round.
Yeah. I can't imagine he's there at 34.
Right.
I can't imagine he's there at 24. the Elite Prospect came out. The other big one is the Hockey Writers came out with theirs also. Us on this show tend to go with the Elite Prospect. I just kind of like the way it all feels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got a lot of people that aren't scouts that watch a lot of hockey, and the big key for either the Hockey Writers or Elite Prospect is they talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. They talk to a lot of scouts, and then they form their opinion through watching other stuff. Elite Prospects is always a little different than how mock drafts look. It's just the way it is. I haven't had time to compare it to the Hockey Writers yet. I did do a dive last night, so I have got my people for those second rounders.
Oh, snap.
It's just I haven't then done the extra research on them, so
Right.
I don't need to talk about it this week.
No, we've
So
got plenty of time.
I'm not on next week, I don't think. Am I?
No, you are.
No, Monday, right? We do Monday.
You're on for next week. You're not. Krusty is not fired, guys.
Krusty's always fired. He's always in discipline, putting time out. It's pretty awful. Reminds Krusty of his childhood.
But the book came out, guys, and for a reminder, we are Blackhawks as of right now are picking 4th, 34th, 37th, 66th, 119, and then 194. So we have one in the first round, 3 second rounders, 1 third, 1 fourth, and then 1 7th. I would not be surprised, even if it's not for Oliver Suvanto, I wouldn't be surprised if KD either trades to make one of those second rounders a late first rounder or trades one of the first rounders for next year into a late first round pick for this year, because also as of right now, we have 3 first round picks for next year. Gosh darn it, I'd like KD to do something about them. But well,
if he doesn't, here's a name for you. Gleb. I don't know anybody else who's ever been named Gleb. Gleb Pugachev. That's the only tease that Krusty's going to give you right now. Gleb.
I'm about it.
I don't know how to get a nickname out of that, but I'm sure something will come to me. But as I said, we'll talk more about that at another time, correct?
Yeah, we'll get more into the draft a little bit later, but I just wanted to sprinkle that the book came out. Krusty and I will always be going through our deep dive. We'll talk about it probably a little bit next week when we have one of our guests on, and then definitely for the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft. We are going to flip it to Krusty for a little bit. I'm not watching these finals. Krusty is watching these finals, and so we don't want to kind of isolate any listeners that are watching these finals just because I'm not. So we're going to flip to Krusty for a little bit to talk about Stanley Cup finals. You cool with that, Krusty?
Krusty's cool with it. And yeah, for those who didn't watch, whoa, Krusty doesn't like to be just on the whole screen. This frustrates Krusty. It makes him scared. Oh, Hockey Princess doesn't care. Huh. Okay. For those who didn't watch, you missed one heck of a game last night. Final was 5-4. As I mentioned in that little read, Vegas was down 2-0 early. Carolina scored the first 25 seconds of the game. Nicholas Ehlers with the first 2 goals. Yes, that same Nicholas Ehlers that Hawks brass said, he's not somebody who can get it done in the playoffs, so we don't want to pursue him. They had a nice little bit of Torts, trying to rally the troops and just tell them to relax, which was, for me, kind of neat with this veteran team, just telling them, calm down. Carolina came out like gangbusters and was doing the exact same thing that they did to Montreal. And then after the first period, towards I'd say the 8-minute mark left in the first, things started to change a little bit, and Vegas just kept on being Vegas. They started attacking a little bit more, just picking their spots. Um, Goal scorers came out. There's a little bit of angst about Freddie after giving the 5 goals, but there's 3 shots with somebody in between the dots from like 8 feet, and if they're picking corners, there's not a lot of goaltenders that can beat that. So, as I said, Carolina definitely dictated play. If we're looking at storylines now after this, I will go on record as stating I took Carolina in 6. The main reason is because I want to see Carolina win. These are 2 unbelievably evenly matched teams. The Vegas Golden Knights have probably 2 of the top 15 forwards, and that's Mitch Marner and Jack Eichel, and both of them can play defense. They get away with a 5-forward power play because Eichel and Marner are very smart and can play defense. It works well for them. Their power play was humming last night. It was just problems all around. Carolina really struggled against it. Did you have a question, or did you just flip me back? Nice.
No, I'm just coming back. Continue.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't just like looking at me. It frightens me. As we talked about in Vegas's last series, that other guy who was a solid top 25 player for San Jose, Thomas Hertl is here and making a massive difference last night and in last round. This one is just going to be fun to watch. I recommend it to everybody. Carter Hart looked like he had his troubles, and had Vegas not slowed down Carolina, I think they would have continued. But Vegas, I think, made a couple little adjustments, and Carolina was not able to dictate shot-wise the way they did in the first 15 minutes of the game. Again, as far as the Canes, it's going to be asked from starting today until this finals is done, is where is the top line? That is what you are going to hear. Besides Freddie, that's what you're going to hear. Where is the top line? It's a valid question right now. Aho was not noticeable. And, really Svechnikov, not all that noticeable. Jarvis, not noticeable. And that's 3 elite players that have to step it up.
Yeah.
That second line for Carolina is doing just fine with the Blake, Stank, and who else do they have on that line? Blake, Stank, and somebody else. Nobody's going to help me. All right. I'll get back to you on that one. Besides that, a lot more goal scoring than anybody thought. Most of these goals were not the goaltender's fault. These are elite players, as I said, getting real close and able to put the puck where they want to. The Canes have to get a little bit better defensively. The Canes, the way they pressure, at times they're almost a little too aggressive, but that's not going to end either. For that 5th goal, I understand Hertl was right there, but Freddie needs to somehow make that incredible save. I recommend it's must watch for me. These are 2 teams that get it. They play really hard. I would assume tomorrow night we don't have the goal sprees that we did before, but even the second period, you could tell everybody went kind of into a little bit more of a shell.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just constantly impressed with Vegas. I know you don't want to hear it. I'm constantly impressed with Torts. Everything that he stated, that from the start of just saying, I'm not doing much, He's almost stated it like he's in a little bit of a cheerleader role. This is a veteran team. Rod, I'm sure, was okay with his team's play, except for, a couple missed assignments in lost battles. And that's the thing. I mean, the Canes got into the finals basically winning the majority of battles against Montreal, and that's not the case now. You have big, heavy players on both sides. Stone doesn't get moved off the puck. Hurdle doesn't get moved off the puck. Barbashev doesn't get moved off the puck. These are guys that can all hold possession. So that's my take on it. Where this thing leads, I can only hope it's 7 games. I think that's all. That's all I got on it. I think NHL wise, we only had one other bit of news, and that was Zach Werenski. Yeah, sorry, is your Norris Trophy winner. It was a good stretch of a bridesmaid and never the bride for Zach for a little bit. So definitely deserving. A little rumblings about how everybody voted. There's a lot of good defensemen to pick from.
I mean,
this has been that was one of the biggest fields I've ever seen, where, between Quinn Hughes, Dahlin, Cale Makar, Zach Werenski, that's boom. And that's just off the top of my head. There's other players involved in that. So I don't know if we touched last week on the sad news. I don't know if that's something you want to.
We did not
go into. Do you want to go into it, or
if you would like to?
That's just, the passing of Claude Lemieux, and the family donated his brain to see what kind of effect concussions had on it. He did take his own life. This was 3 or 4 days after he brought the Flame into Montreal. Mental health is blind to whether you have money, don't have money, the color of your screen, just anything. All of us get caught up in our head to where other things just become so much more important, or things look dark. A very sad time. I don't listen in between periods. I did hear a little bit of, because they did it during the game, I think, Freddie's reaction. Freddie was a client of Claude's. Claude was Freddie's agent.
Yeah.
He did tell the story that Claude went to him and asked, "Is it okay that I bring out the Flame? You're my guy, and you're playing the team, And of course, Freddie said, it's just not that big of a deal, but to everyone, you're all loved.
Yeah.
Just try to remember that. I know this world and life gets really crazy. Just stay aware of the mental health issues. You need help, get help. But it was really sad just because of, Claude had some issues like we all do, but nobody really saw this coming. So I just wanted to talk about it just a tiny bit. That's a great player who became a great friend to people, and it's a sad loss. I also had one more question, which I did not research to see if it was true, but I do believe Colorado's GM is no longer.
Correct.
He has been named president and GM for the Fanged people. Is that correct? And that's
talking about the Predators, guys.
Yes, the Predators. And that's McLaren is his name, or all right. See this when I do that in a question form. This is Krusty acting like uneducated old guy, hoping that somebody else is doing his research for him and can then interject. But basically, Colorado's GM, before he got made GM, San Jose wanted him.
Yeah.
Sakic said no and then made him GM the following year. There's been a little bit of talk of, the Rantanen ordeal. Maybe this is why. For me, I just think Sakic couldn't hold him back as far as you have a chance to go be in a job where you are the president and the GM. It's too much of an ask to say, no, you're our GM. It's just not the way things are done. So I think that was amicable. I cannot believe in my mind that Joe Sakic did not sign off also on the Rantanen trade.
Right.
A player of that magnitude, I don't think Joe is the president and whatever other accolades you'd want to talk about his greatness. I got to figure if he had a problem with it, it would have been vetoed. So I consider that was a group decision. So, one that they probably missed on, but that's the nature of the business. You've got to kind of get stuff for stuff. So, that was the only other NHL thing that I had. So, and I would assume, as most others, I don't think Nashville will be tearing it down.
No.
I think they will be looking to retool. They have Matthew Wood. They've got some good young players also.
Right.
And then they've got some players that, probably could bring them something in a trade that are older, but I don't know if they actually want to do that. Nashville would be a rough place to all of a sudden be the worst team in the league for 4 years. That really eats away at your fan base. So,
for sure. I think they'll I don't think they'll make too many moves this offseason. I think they'll kind of see how things start to gel at the beginning. And if it's a nightmare past first 15, then maybe contemplate shifting some things around. But everything seemed to, as much as it pains me, everything seemed to kind of start to click during the second half of the season for them. So if it continues, I don't see too much movement. But if things break apart again post first 15, then maybe nothing crazy, but maybe they start entertaining the idea of just moving some pieces, but not a complete burn down.
Yeah, I think that will be it. If, they're not close.
Yeah.
Towards after the All-Star break and everything, then everything changes. You've got a couple older players that, might have no problem going someplace else. And I would assume Barnett is on a hot seat, even though he did a good job last year. So yeah, as far as the older players, they dictate what's going to happen.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's a veteran-laden team for the most part. So if they fail, I'm sure management will start coming to them. That's more than we ever need to talk about Nashville.
True that. All right, Krusty, do you have any final thoughts for this anniversary year 3 episode?
I don't. I really enjoy this Slappy Dog. I have a great time with this. So thank you for letting me do this. Thank you for doing all the work.
And thank you to our listeners.
And our listeners, thank you. Krusty loves you.
Thank you to our listeners, to our fantastic guests that have come on, be it Monday previews, bonus episodes, our book club episodes, and to the people who asked if we were doing more book club episodes. Of course, obviously, we got an entire off season where we might do some book club stuff. All right,
yes,
folks.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you to everybody. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. That is all, and we will talk to you guys next week.